tonight you will choose.
Mr. Tatum.
Choose for the majority, I'm almost finished. Choose for the majority of our children, or choose for a minority of adults. Does the board represent the kids in the community, or simply a committee? The actions and votes of the board tonight on the elementary school displacement of students will speak more clearly and loudly about the ethics, integrity, and intelligence of our board than almost any vote or action you all will take in the future. Is HBISD Board of Trustees about our kids and community, or about committees and cronyism or backroom deals? I've spoken directly with some of you, and you know in your heart this is the wrong thing.
John, your 3 minutes is up.
That this isn't a fair thing. I got you. There's no time limit on the First Amendment. I've spoken with some of you that you know in your heads is in the smart thing. We humbly ask that 4 of you search your soul, choose to do the right thing. Go back to the original elementary displacement plan for 1 year each. Do the right thing.
Thank you, John.
Sit down. You had 3 minutes. You used your time.
Good job.
Way to go, John.
Oh, Kelly Perkins. Sorry.
Well, I'll try to use less time, so John can have the other 2 minutes, or the other minute I'm not going to use. I'm Kelly Perkins. I've seen you before. I have 3 children that I moved from private school to attend higher and now MIS. They are 2nd, 5th, and 6th, and I live at 3801 Bryn Mawr, within walking distance of higher. So I just briefly want to address the data, and if you start at the beginning with the enrollment figures and the demographic projections, from the district's own presentation, in 1989, we had 4,091 students. And by 2014, we had 7,092, which is a 73% increase by all accounts. That's a big number. But this growth was projected to continue in that same line indefinitely. And the major factor that was overlooked is that we are geographically locked. The population of the Park Cities, all the residents, has actually declined over the last decade. The school growth was 2.2%, but that also was a very prosperous and economic point in our economy. Since 2014, our enrollment has not continued to go up at 2.2%. It has in fact dropped. It hasn't gone up at all. So today, this fall, after the completion of UP, fully completed, with the added school number 5, we will have 949 empty elementary seats. Empty. And we have a residential population that is declining. So we want you to pause, reflect, and these are from public sites, these are from your own numbers. If we're going to do this, and I voted for the bond based on what was presented, but now I'm realizing that the people that proposed this may have relied on numbers that weren't quite complete. So with no finger pointing or anything else, we want you to just pause, reflect, and really consider where our future is and what the actual numbers today reflect, and whether we need to continue along this path. Thank you.
Ramsey March.
Hi everybody, my name is Ramsey March. I live at 3813 Marquette, about a block from Hyatt, nearby Heather. And so I echo a lot of her sentiments. I'm a real estate developer here in town, so I can sympathize certainly with where you are, where you said there's been a lot of dealings that we're not privy to, and a lot of things related to design that are going on that we just can't possibly know. So thank you for your service. I have 2 kids at Higher now, another head there next year. I don't normally speak at things like this. It's very unusual, but what I thought I'd do, I know a lot of people were talking about some of the promises made, but I'll read from the FAQs that were posted in July of 2015 prior to in the ramp up to the vote that really everybody looked to and relied upon. Where will elementary students go during rebuilding? Reference, 1 school year each displaced. Bradfield, Higher, and University Park are historically significant facilities. How will they be rebuilt to complement the surrounding neighborhood? Community input will greatly influence the final designs of the schools. I don't think anybody feels like there's some great influence to this point in the design. Will all the new elementary schools be the same, or will they be unique? The design of each school will aim to reflect the setting. Will the new buildings be 2 stories or 3 stories, specifically addressed in the FAQs that we all relied upon? Renderings of the schools will be available in September of October of 2015. Then the rendering was posted in October of 2015 as promised, 2 stories for Higher. Again, we relied upon that. And then down at the bottom, again, 1 year displacement. Why is this a good idea? Because it's convenient for all the schools impacted, because it's a 1 year displacement. And it even addresses that busing could be required for Bradfield students. The Bradfield parents saw this same FAQ. They voted for the bond. I live a block from the school. I would not have voted for the bond based on those facts. And lastly, I want to touch on the difference between a campaign promise and a bond promise. A campaign promise is made by a politician, and those are broken frequently, as we all know. In 4 years, I have an opportunity to vote that person out of office. A bond promise is like a covenant. These promises were made. One has already been broken at Higher. Another is at risk. A bond promise is a covenant. It's permanent. It can't be broken. If my bond breaks a promise, I can't vote it out of office in 4 years. This is it. So please take it seriously. I echo John's comments on the 2-year displacement. We would love to see that reversed and for the integrity of the process to be restored. And then on the 3-story structure, it absolutely cannot happen. And we'll do everything we can to provide the input we were promised. Thank you.
Brian Lowen.
Hi, my name is Brian Lowen. I live at 4412 Caruth Boulevard, and I've got 2 children. Both are out of the Higher School District, but I wanted to voice an opinion that I think is being echoed apparently unanimously here today. But I really feel like Charles' opening statement spoke a lot, that it really, he articulated what I would like to say in a way that, you know, he understands what's taking place here, the changes that took place from the time we voted on this, and I voted for the bond initially, has changed dramatically. And if I could redo the vote, I would vote no now. And I think the board needs to hear that the community has been, if it's not misled, there's definitely something wrong with when the community's standing up and saying, this is not what we voted for. We did not vote for our community to be changed like this, and to make this a disruptive piece to our community, a 3-story building, moving kids through 2 different, moving kids, you know, from the Higher School District for 2 years displacement, is not what we had looked for in this bond. So I just ask you, and I would echo John's thought, that if there's 4 people on this board that would make a choice to look back at what was promised, and even hearing Ramsey's comments, this is not what we were looking for when we voted yes for the bond. So just take the time, pause, reflect on what's been said here today, and we ask that you make the right decision for our community. Thank you very much.
Nathan Halsey.
I wrote to find that card, if the 4 points were covered.
I was going to say, are you good?
Be redundant. Yeah, I echo what they said. But
Oh, come on, be redundant.
I'm giving my 3 minutes to John Taylor.
She want to do it?
Allison Greenfield, please.
about to say what was just said. My name's Allison Greenfield. I live at 4041 Bryn Mawr. I was not planning on speaking tonight. When I sat down, my husband told me that everybody had to fill out a yellow card, so I filled one out. I know there's been a... I did vote for the bond. I grew up here in this community. I went to Bradfield. My husband went to Hire. I love it. When we moved back here, we had great discussion about what pocket of the Park Cities we would choose to live in. And I said, you know what is so great is that they are all awesome and equal, and it doesn't matter. And now I feel like what is being threatened in the Park Cities is that it's not an equal feeling. Seeing what was built for the 5th elementary school is really disheartening, and driving down Levers every day, I'm scared and I'm sad to see what's going up for UP, because it does look to be 3 stories. I don't know exactly what the specs are, but it looks to be 3 stories. And so now when we're hearing Higher is going to be 3 stories, I thought, well gosh, I've just got to stand up and say that's not what I believe. And I'm also a proponent of Higher being displaced for just 1 year. If I could speak to kind of the soccer mom water cooler feeling, is that Higher is just feeling less than some of the other school districts. I have lots of friends at Bradfield, and they actually said that if a busing option had been proposed to them, that they would have taken it, because a lot of them thought, that's great, I get 30 minutes extra in the afternoons, in the morning, time for themselves to get things done. So I think some options weren't proposed to everybody that could have possibly been done. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Allison. John Weston.
Good evening, I'm John Weston. I live at 4053 Purdue. I didn't originally vote for the bond package just purely for financial reasons, but because we don't have kids, but I appreciate the fact that our property values are hinged on what happens with the school district. I'm in support of it now. It got voted in. Let's go. I'm also a project manager, and I do various types of consulting. I was part of the consulting team that did the security consulting about 5 years ago for the high school. So I've walked every one of those schools and know that they all either have to get upgraded or replaced because they're a security nightmare. Those things were designed 50 years ago, back when the problems we have today didn't exist, okay? I encourage you to move forward with these plans because it's important to create a safe environment for everybody, and any newer architecture is absolutely going to give you the ability to do that. I haven't reviewed the plans. I'd be happy to help you out in any way I can on a pro bono basis. Just say, hey, you met all the criteria for that stuff. My request would be, because I'm hearing what all the neighbors in the neighborhood are saying, and I live about 6 blocks away, is show us, if you can easily, show us how you did your space planning and how you met the budgetary constraint of what the bond issue had. And if a 3rd story is really going to cost a lot more money, I have a hard time believing that building a 3-story building versus a 2-story building is going to cost less or the same as a 2. So if the space planning proves out that you absolutely can't exist without having that third story, show us, and give us the opportunity to at least understand what you came up with. I know the architect did those studies. They have to. That's part of what they're contracted to. And that carry errors and emissions insurance so they don't screw up. That's basically it. I'm in support of let's move forward and let's get this done on time, on budget, or under budget. I can understand everybody's apprehension about having to have their kids out of one school for 2 years. But I really applaud you in moving forward and creating a better learning environment and using today's technology and today's requirements so that it's a good place for everybody to go for a long time to come. Thanks.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Wes Miller.
Thank you. I'm Wes Miller. I live at 3808 Colgate. First, I'd like to say I voted for the bond. I know several of you. I knew quite a few of you on the formal board, and my hat is off to every one of you that participated in the formal board in the school district for having the foresight and taking the action and completing a $360 million bond for our kids' future. I mean that sincerely. I had a big long speech, it was 2 minutes and 59 seconds, but hearing what I'm hearing and what I think you're going to continue to hear, if I'm you and I'm in your chair, I'm putting myself in your seat, there have been a couple of changes. Why would we not do this? Why would we not keep going with our plan? If there hadn't been a few major changes that I'd like to bring up, then I want you to really consider, should we be doing this? And I don't know what the answer is. It may be building a 3-story. I don't know. Maybe building a 1-story. Who knows? But I do want to say that I know for a fact, I'm in the shopping center, grocery anchor shopping center development business, and I follow mouths to feed. I do know for a fact that for the first time in 2016, it's been reported that millennials have surpassed baby boomers. And that means a lot of things, but more importantly, it means less marriages, it means higher divorce rates, it means where these millennials are headed from a children perspective. More importantly, it's a fact that women are having fewer children, not only from a fertility rate, which means how many children they'll have in a family. The gender pay gap has narrowed the field, more women in professionals, which all this means fewer children. So I do believe that in itself, just that change in demographic coming down the pike, and they say that's till 2036 before you can evaluate where we stop and we take a new count. Secondly, and most importantly, great for taxing authorities are unfortunately, but fortunately, just not necessarily since 2009, but since 2013, our home values have increased up to 30%. There are some home values that have increased 50%, depending on the redevelopment. But it's a known fact between Hillcrest and Preston specifically, South and Northwest Highway, higher district, we have experienced a value that will prevent future young families from moving into the specific immediate higher district. I think it was brilliant on the school board and the independent school district to identify the new school east of Hillcrest where more families can afford that particular area. But if you really look at what's happening, these two changes in itself, we ought to step back and say, how does this change what we promoted? So I'm really just encouraging to step back and let's look and reevaluate. We've got time, designing higher. May take 2 weeks, 30 days. I'm just asking everybody to reevaluate, should we be doing this or directing these funds towards the high school? Don't know.
Thank you, Wes. Scott Dabney.
Let me just hand these out first and then I can start. I got one. Let me see. This is just, I'm going to talk briefly about this. Yeah, when you do it, that'd be a lot better. Right here. And I've got some more I'm going to pass out here. But, you know, just to start off, you know, we really did buy into this next week. We work over in Highland Park. But the reason we moved in here was you come in here and you look at this 1950s, 60s charm and character. I mean, it's cool. You know, now you get Higher, which is, I mean, we moved over to Higher because it had this really one-story charm and historical nature. And now it's even better. These trees are huge. I mean, it's just incredible. So I'm like Wes said, I really understand that y'all are trying to do the best that you thought of at the time. But there's just so many changes that have happened, both demographically, other things like, you know, houses or you know, buying other extra lots. You know, older people, you know, I've heard this from a board member, old people are dying off, so there's more what's so damn expensive in this particular neighborhood versus like Bradfield and UP, these big lots, big houses. With all these other trends, I don't know how they're going to do it, you know, and then people are combining sites and, you know, this older generation selling to newer generation, shoot, that's been going on for the 80s and since 2014 when the demographics changed. And that one handout that I gave you that shows the graph, which is TEA, I mean, these are numbers that you can get that are official, not ours. If these schools are done, and even if Higher is not redone, or Bradfield either, just the 5th school and UP, you're going to have 949 empty seats if the enrollment stays the same. It's going down from 2,749 in 14 to 2,510 now. 2,745 to 29 to 2,510. So even if it stays the same, or let's just say it starts going up in half, you use half of those seats, those 949 empty seats. You know, if you go into Higher and Bradfield and UP, then you get up to above 1,100, and close to 1,200. But let's just say half goes forward, and then they all start heading towards the high school. Well, the high school's already 200 over. You're going to add 20 rooms, and all of a sudden, all these elementary school students come up, and then you're over capacity again. So let's look, pause, rethink, readjust, really seriously pause, take a look. Maybe more of this money needs to go in to the high school. The money saved by upgrading and expanding Higher, just like, you know, Armstrong, you're gut in the middle, you're coming up with the pod stuff like you guys want, it's still being upgraded, and it's got that charm, and there's no reason why we can't do the same thing with Higher. So Armstrong, and pause, reassess, and reallocate. I appreciate you guys, sir.
Tanya McKinney.
I apologize for my casual dress, but I really wanted to be here and I had something before that. I'm Tanya McKinney. I live at 3820 Greenbrier Drive. All 3 of my children attended Higher. They all walked. We're about a block away. I feel like the bond package, in my opinion and the opinion of my neighbors, everyone on my block is so upset. They asked me to come tonight. It was like a bait and switch. And advertising a bait and switch is illegal. You can't promise one thing and then come up with something else at the last minute. We were never told a 3-story building was even possible. Supposedly it was in the fine print on maybe the 3rd page or something, but no one who reads the fine print, that's when you're really tricking the citizens when you do something like this. We feel like we're not being heard, as one gentleman said today. Everyone is upset. This is just the beginning. If this doesn't go the way we think it's going to go, there's going to be a lot more of a neighborhood uprising going on in terms of marches and demonstrations and yard signs and the press. We're only getting started tonight, so I hope that you will really listen to everyone and take us seriously. The whole pause means maybe pause for a year or 2. What is the rush? Why do we have to rush into this? We have this money. We don't have to do it this quickly. Also, all the traffic coming in and out of our neighborhood, that endangers our pets, that endangers our preschool children. There's a lot more at stake here, even with the whole Bradfield. Bus them over there. That would be a nice break for those parents. Please just rethink everything and listen to everyone tonight. I appreciate your time.
John Clark. John Clark. All right. Ashley Cook.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Cook, and I grew up at 4017 Greenbrier. My dad grew up in Highland Park, and then we live over at 3801 Southwestern. And I think that it's just very shameful that we voted on something based on representations that turned out to be false. And so I know that there's no civil liability for schools. You know, this is a bond issue. You guys have the ability to do what you think is best. But if there weren't that protection, then in my opinion, it's just plain old fraudulent inducement. I don't think that there's very many people that voted for the bond that would vote for the bond if it were disclosed that and if it were disclosed that you were going to displace the higher students. So I feel extremely sad because I think the integrity of the neighborhood is being diminished, not only with this bait and switch, but also with the architecture. It's embarrassing to drive by that new school. It's shameful. We can have tradition, we can have class, and we can also have technology. So I vote that, or I would ask that you go back to what we voted on, which is a 2-story building, and that you not displace the higher kids, and that you please try to save some of the character of this area and not make us look like Plano. Thank you.
Stephanie Waters.
Hello, I'm Stephanie McMurray Waters, and I didn't even know about this meeting. I found out about it, I think yesterday or the day before from Preservation Dallas. I'm on their email list, and I could honestly argue this point both sides evenly, because I came from private school, moved my kids over, and they are really pushing technology and all the things that y'all are saying that the new updated location will give us. So I'm going to let everybody else behind me argue about the buildings, and I want to tell you about something else that only affects me, my little family, and my daughter, that occurred on February 2nd. Because I've been told I can talk about this. So I was the one with my newborn adopted baby at the MIS meeting that you said she was so sweet during the meeting, so thank you. I have notes here, but I think I've reread them so many times I'm just going to talk from my heart. I'm a 4th generation HPISD resident. My grandmother lived at 4100 St. John's and raised my father and my aunt there. My dad went to Armstrong. He proposed to his girlfriend in 1st grade. Her name is Honey, and she lives across the street from Armstrong and still tells me every day how much that moment with my father has affected her. And he's deceased now, so I love her stories, and I love her telling my children her stories. I did not go to high school here, but my brother and sister went to Bradfield. My children go to Armstrong. My son is now here at MIS, and I have just adopted a newborn baby girl who will hopefully go to Armstrong. I had a situation occur in January when Armstrong announced that there would be a daddy-daughter dance occurring on February 2nd, which happens to be my daughter's birthday. My ex-husband doesn't usually go to those things because he's an introvert and it's just not his thing. But because it was her birthday, he was going to go. So they had said $40 in advance or $100 for the tickets at the door. My ex-husband is unemployed, so he opted to just wait it out to make sure nobody got the flu or anything, and he would just buy the ticket at the door. Sure enough, my son got the flu, but by the grace of God, my daughter did not. Apparently, numbers were down for the Armstrong Daddy-Daughter Dance, so they decided to combine it with Bradfield. At the point that they combined it with Bradfield, they sold out tickets before my daughter could get to go to her Daddy-Daughter Dance on her birthday. And I was going to be quiet about it and hope for the best that someone would get sick and not be able to go and free of a ticket. Someone else preempted my decision and sent an email to the ABPA email list and said, does anybody have tickets? I know a dad and daughter that would really like to go. To which I responded to him what the president of our dad's club had told me. Absolutely no transfers will be available. You will not be able to buy tickets at the door. We're oversold. Don't even try. So I responded to this ABPA, Armstrong Bradfield Preschool Association, email blast, thinking I was responding to the guy who had posted. And I said, according to, and I'll leave his name out, the president of our dad's club, don't bother showing up. Tickets will not be available. And then I said, this is very, very discouraging to me because there's no reason this event should be so limiting or that any girl should be excluded from her own dance. I received a text from the president of our dad's club. I'll leave the profanities out, but I'll be sure to show you if you'd like to see it, where he concluded his text by saying, F you. And he used the full word, okay? Did not say F you. He spelled out the word, but we have a child here, so I'm going to leave that to your imagination. Because I had responded to someone's email saying, does anyone have tickets? And I tried to save them the embarrassment of showing up to the daddy-daughter dance the way my ex-husband and daughter were going to do, and to be turned away from the dance. So I then screenshotted his text and blasted it to the ABPA email list so that they could see what this guy had done. And I've been told that there's no recourse whatsoever because this is not a school-sanctioned organization. My point to you is I'm a 4th generation HPISD resident. we have an obligation, if we're going to allow private clubs to have private events and carry our school names with it, there has to be some kind of accountability to make it fair so that daughters like mine aren't crying on their birthday that they were the only ones that didn't get to go to the daddy-daughter dance. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Grant Walsh.
Good evening. I'm Grant Walsh. I live at 3434 Westminster. I've got 3 kids, 2 that are at Elementary 5 at UP. I've got a 3rd grader and a 1st grader, and I have a 4-year-old who's going to be on his way up. I'm probably in a little bit of a unique position because my school's already been torn down. We're in the UP area. I went to UP, so I had a lot of heart and soul in that school, and it was sad to see it be torn down. I voted against the bond, primarily, as I think Mr. Weston said, for financial reasons. That was really my main motivation. I supported it now. As I've seen what's happened, and I've seen my children at UP and at the new school, they love it. They love the new technology. They love the structure. They love the pod systems. They really have embraced it. And I was frustrated. We live a block from UP, the actual UP campus. And for 3 years, we had never done the